The sun hung low in the sky, casting its golden glow over the vast foreign landscape of the alien planet. Ethan stepped off the shuttle, his boots making a soft thud as they touched the dusty ground. His mission had been clear: help secure an alliance between Earth and the dominant alien species, the Xylan. Their advanced technology and formidable military power could be the key to ensuring humanity's survival in a galaxy filled with unknown dangers. He was part of a small delegation sent to the Xylan capital, and his specific role was to meet Princess Ilaria, the daughter of the Xylan Emperor. She was known not just for her political acumen, but also for her fierce determination to protect her people. The negotiations had been going well so far, but this meeting was crucial. It was said that Ilaria's personal approval of the alliance would solidify the deal, and Ethan had been chosen to present the final terms. As he walked toward the palace, Ethan's mind raced. He had read all the intelligence reports about Ilaria. She was a skilled diplomat, a master of both strategy and negotiation, and her intelligence was unmatched. Still, there was something about the entire situation that felt off. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected would happen. He was escorted into the palace by a pair of Xylan guards. The palace was unlike anything he had seen before, towering structures made of a strange, reflective metal that shimmered under the alien sun. Inside, the hallways were lined with intricate tapestries, depicting scenes of ancient Xylan battles and peaceful diplomatic victories. The air was cool, the scent of unfamiliar flowers mingling with the crisp scent of the palace's marble floors. After a brief wait in a quiet, elegant chamber, a guard entered and announced, "The princess will meet you now." Ethan stood up, straightening his jacket. He had prepared for this moment for weeks, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to face. When the doors opened, the princess stood before him. Ilaria was breathtaking. Her presence was commanding, and yet there was a softness in her demeanor that caught Ethan off guard. Her skin was a deep, luminescent violet, and her eyes sparkled like two radiant stars. She wore an intricate gown woven with silver thread, which caught the light in a mesmerizing pattern. But it wasn't her appearance alone that held Ethan's attention. It was her eyes, full of wisdom and wariness, a mix of royalty and an inner strength that was clearly forged through years of responsibility. "Commander Ethan?" Ilaria greeted him, her voice smooth and calm. But there was an edge to it. "I trust your journey here was without trouble?" "Yes, Your Highness," Ethan replied, bowing slightly, his heart beating faster than he expected. "It's an honor to meet you," the princess nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat. But as Ethan stepped forward, something strange happened. The door behind him had been left ajar, and through the crack he could see a glimpse of the princess's private chambers. Without realizing it, he took a step closer to the door, distracted by the strange, soft humming of alien technology in the next room. But what happened next was entirely unexpected. As he opened the door to peek into the room, he was met with an awkward silence. The princess, apparently unaware of his approach, was standing near a window, her back to him. But it wasn't her posture that caught his attention. It was the fact that she was standing completely unclothed. Her face went pale as she quickly turned around, her eyes widening with shock. The room fell into an unbearable silence. Ethan stood, frozen, utterly taken aback. His face flushed red, and for a brief moment he couldn't find the words to speak. In that split second, all the training, all the diplomatic protocol seemed to vanish into thin air. His heart pounded as his eyes instinctively lowered in a desperate attempt to show respect. I'm so sorry," Ethan stammered, his voice coming out as a mix of shock and embarrassment. He took an immediate step back, unsure of how to handle the situation. Ilaria, equally stunned, composed herself quickly, though her cheeks remained flushed. There was no mistaking the anger and confusion in her eyes, but there was also a hint of something else, an understanding that this mistake wasn't entirely intentional. She took a deep breath, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from the situation. "Commander Ethan," she began, her voice cold but surprisingly controlled. "Do you always invade a royal's privacy without warning?" Ethan, still unable to hide his embarrassment, quickly bowed his head, his hands held in front of him in apology. "No, Your Highness, I didn't mean to. I was—" "You were distracted?" Ilaria interrupted, her tone softening slightly. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Amusement, perhaps? She stepped toward him, her confidence in command evident. "Mistakes happen, but you must understand that this is a moment of great significance for both our peoples. We cannot afford to be distracted by such trivial matters." Ethan took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. The awkwardness of the situation hung heavy in the air, but Ilaria's calmness seemed to anchor him. "I understand, Your Highness," he said, his voice steadier now, "and I truly apologize for intruding." Ilaria regarded him for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as she evaluated him. Despite the strange beginning to their meeting, Ethan could tell that the princess wasn't one to hold grudges. Her intelligence and quick thinking were already evident, and as she dismissed the matter with a slight wave of her hand, it was clear that she wasn't one to allow such minor disruptions to interfere with the larger mission at hand. "Let us proceed," she said, her voice now formal but with a hint of something else, something that felt more like an invitation than an order. "You have come here to represent your people. We should not waste any more time." The room remained silent after the awkward encounter, with only the soft hum of the palace's air system breaking the stillness. Ethan sat on the edge of the chair, trying to regain his composure. The embarrassment of the moment still lingered, in the air between him and the princess. But Ilaria, to his surprise, seemed unbothered by the incident. She had quickly dismissed the awkwardness with a grace that left Ethan in awe. In her royal demeanor, there was a calm confidence, one that was not easily shaken. He couldn't help but wonder what it must be like to carry such immense responsibility at such a young age. Ilaria glanced at him for a moment, her violet eyes reflecting the light as she spoke again, her voice much softer than before. "You've come to offer an alliance, Commander Ethan, but before we discuss politics, tell me something. Why did your people choose you for this task?" Ethan was caught off guard by the question. He wasn't used to being asked personal questions during these types of meetings. However, he could sense that Ilaria wasn't simply making small talk. There was a deeper curiosity in her eyes, one that went beyond the surface. He cleared his throat, thinking for a moment before answering. "I was chosen because of my experience and understanding of both diplomacy and military strategy. My role is to ensure that the alliance between our two peoples is not only signed, but also solidified in a way that will benefit both sides equally." Ilaria nodded, taking in his words. "And you believe that a peaceful alliance is possible between us?" "Yes," Ethan replied, leaning forward slightly. "The resources and knowledge your people possess are invaluable to us. We are facing challenges that no one can face alone. Together, we have the potential to create a stronger future for both our worlds." Ilaria's eyes darkened for a moment as she looked out the large window that overlooked the alien city below. There was something heavy in her gaze, something that Ethan couldn't quite place. It was as if the weight of her responsibilities was taking a toll on her, even in this moment of peace. "It's not as simple as you think," she said, her voice quieter now. "This alliance is not just about resources or technology. There are factions within my own court who would prefer war to peace. They see your people as a threat, not an ally." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He had known that politics could be complicated, but hearing it from Ilaria herself made it all the more real. The princess wasn't just a figurehead. She was deeply entangled in a web of political conflict, and that conflict could destroy everything they were working toward. "I understand," he said, his voice calm but filled with a sense of urgency. But that's why we need to act quickly. The longer we wait, the more time these factions have to sabotage the peace. We cannot afford to let this slip through our fingers. Ilaria turned back to him, her expression softening. You're right. But it's not just the factions I have to worry about. My own people are divided. Many see your kind as nothing more than invaders. Even if your intentions are noble, Ethan's brow furrowed. What do you mean? If your people truly understood the benefits of the alliance, surely they would see reason. Ilaria smiled bitterly, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. It's not that simple. There are those who have lived their whole lives in fear of humanity's intentions, and there are those who have heard nothing but stories of our people's greatness. They see your alliance as a threat to that greatness. Ethan knew that change would not come easily. He had seen the same kind of fear in the eyes of people back on Earth. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control. He understood better than most how deeply ingrained these feelings could be. What are you going to do? He asked softly. Ilaria took a deep breath, her fingers lightly brushing the edge of the table as she considered his question. I must show them that peace is not weakness. I must convince them that an alliance with your people is not a surrender, but a strength. Ethan stood up and moved closer to her, his voice firm. Then let me help you. We can work together to show them the truth. If you stand with me, others will follow. We will prove that this alliance is the key to our survival. Ilaria looked up at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, to his surprise, she nodded. Very well. But be warned, Commander, this will not be easy. There will be many who resist, and there will be many who want to see us fail. I'm prepared for that, Ethan said, his determination evident in his voice. I didn't come here just to sign a treaty. I came to help you build something lasting, something real. The princess studied him for a moment, as though weighing his words. Finally, she spoke again, her voice tinged with both uncertainty and resolve. I'll need your help, but I cannot promise you that everything will go as planned. There will be risks, and I will not ask you to take them unless you are certain. Ethan's heart was racing. I'm certain. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. Ilaria smiled faintly, her gaze shifting to the window once again, this time with a look of quiet resolve. Then let us begin. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of their shared mission hung in the air, heavy with the knowledge that the future of two worlds now rested on their shoulders. Ilaria finally broke the silence. Tomorrow we will begin the council meeting. We will present our case to the people. It is a risk, but it's the only way forward. Ethan nodded. I'll be ready. As they walked toward the door, Ilaria paused, looking back at him with a serious expression. Remember, Commander, this alliance is more than just politics. It's about trust. And I have to trust you. Don't betray that trust. Ethan met her gaze, his voice steady. I won't, Your Highness. I'll do everything I can to help you and your people. The next day arrived quickly, and with it came the first real test of the alliance. Ilaria and Ethan stood together in the grand council hall of the Xylan Palace. The large circular room was surrounded by high stone walls, etched with ancient symbols of Xylan history. At the center, a long, rectangular table stood, its surface smooth and polished, reflecting the faces of the gathered council members. Ethan couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. He had attended many high-stakes meetings in his career, but none felt as important as this one. The future of two species, two worlds, rested on the decision that would be made in this room. And standing beside him was Princess Ilaria, who, despite her calm and composed exterior, seemed to carry the weight of her people's future on her shoulders. Ilaria had spent hours the night before preparing for this meeting. She had reviewed every detail of the alliance proposal and even gone over possible objections. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she was resolute in her belief that this alliance was their only chance for survival. "Are you ready?" Ethan asked, quietly, turning to her. His voice held an edge of concern, but he could see that Alaria had steeled herself for what was to come. She nodded, her expression firm. "I'm ready." The doors to the council hall opened, and one by one, the members of the Xylan Council filed. Ethan recognized several of them from his earlier meetings with Alaria. They were powerful leaders, each representing different factions within the Xylan government. Some were skeptical of the human alliance, others were more open to the idea, but all were deeply influential. As the last member took their seat, Alaria stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the room. Silence fell over the council as she began to speak. "My esteemed council members," she began, her voice steady and commanding, "we are at a crossroads. Our people face threats both within and beyond our borders. The time has come for us to make a decision that will shape the future of our world. And to that end, I have called upon Commander Ethan, representative of the Human Alliance, to present his case." Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling the eyes of the council on him. His heart pounded in his chest, but he knew he had to speak clearly and with conviction. "We, the humans, have come to offer our help," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "Our people are facing dangers that we cannot face alone. We offer you not just resources and technology, but an alliance of equals. Together we can strengthen our defenses, ensure the survival of our worlds, and bring about a future of prosperity for both our peoples." The council members exchanged skeptical glances, and Ethan could feel the tension rise in the room. Some looked unconvinced, while others seemed more thoughtful. But one voice stood out above the rest. "We are not children to be protected by others," a gruff council member spoke, his voice harsh and filled with distrust. "Why should we trust the humans? We have never needed your kind before. Why should we believe that you have our best interests at heart?" Ethan held the man's gaze, refusing to back down. "I understand your skepticism," he said, his voice clear and unwavering. "But times have changed. Our worlds are under threat from forces we cannot control. The peace between us could provide the strength we need to face what's coming." Another council member, a woman with sharp, calculating eyes, spoke up. "And what exactly are these threats you speak of? You claim that our worlds face danger, but where is the evidence? Why should we risk our people's future based on your words alone?" Ethan's mind raced. He knew the answer was critical, but the evidence he needed was still being gathered. He had to tread carefully. "The evidence is coming," Ethan replied. "Our intelligence shows that there are hostile forces moving in the galaxy, factions that seek to conquer or destroy. If we do not act now, we risk being caught off guard. We must stand together, or we will fall separately." Alaria stepped forward, her voice cutting through the growing murmur of the room. "My people's safety is my top priority," she said, her eyes scanning the council members. "But I also know that we cannot continue to isolate ourselves. The threat is real, and we must act now. I ask you to trust me, and to trust Commander Ethan." The room fell silent. The council members were deep in thought, weighing the words of their princess. Ethan could feel the tension in the air as the decision hung in the balance. Finally, the gruff council member spoke again. "And what of the factions within your own government, Princess? You may speak of unity now, but we know that not all of your people share your vision of peace with the humans." Alaria's expression darkened slightly. "There are those who oppose the alliance, yes," she said. "But they are not the voice of the majority. The people of Xylan are tired of endless war. They want peace. They want security." The council seemed to consider her words carefully. The woman who had questioned Ethan earlier leaned forward, her gaze sharp. "And what of the risks to our culture?" she asked. "What do we gain by aligning ourselves with humans? What happens to our sovereignty? Our traditions? Alaria's gaze softened, but there was no hesitation in her words. We do not surrender our identity by forming an alliance. Instead, we gain strength. We protect our people, our future, and we ensure that Xylan remains a powerful force in the galaxy. This alliance is not about weakness, it is about survival, and it is about the future. For a long moment, the room was still. The council members exchanged glances, and the silence was thick with the weight of the decision they were about to make. Finally, one of the older council members, a wise and respected leader, stood up. His voice was calm, but there was a firmness to it. I have seen many wars, many alliances, and many betrayals in my time, he said. But I believe in the words of our princess. If this alliance is what she believes is best for us, then I will trust her judgment, and I will trust the humans. The rest of the council sat in silence, but it was clear that the tide was turning. One by one, the other council members nodded, in agreement. The decision had been made. The alliance would move forward. Alaria turned to Ethan, her expression one of quiet satisfaction. We've done it, she said softly. The future is ours. The days following the council's decision were a blur of preparations and tense meetings. The alliance between the Xylan and humanity had been approved, but the real work was just beginning. Alaria, as the leader of her people, now had to face the divisions that had plagued her kingdom for so long. There were still those who opposed the alliance, and they were not shy about expressing their feelings. Alaria sat in her private chambers, looking out over the Xylan capital. The city stretched out before her, a blend of ancient architecture and advanced technology. The people below were unaware of the political storm brewing above them. They lived their lives, blissfully ignorant of the forces at play behind the palace walls. Ethan, who had become a trusted ally in the weeks since their meeting, entered the room quietly. His presence was always steadying, and Alaria was grateful for his support. "You're thinking about the council again, aren't you?" Ethan said as he approached her. Alaria didn't answer immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the horizon. "I'm thinking about my people," she replied after a moment. "The council's decision is just the beginning. I have to ensure that the alliance with humanity is accepted by everyone, not just the leadership. There are still those who will resist." Ethan nodded, understanding her concerns. "I know it's not easy, but you've already made a huge step forward. The rest of the people will follow your lead once they see the benefits of this alliance." Alaria turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mixture of determination and weariness. "I hope you're right. But there are factions within my kingdom who will stop at nothing to see this alliance fail. Some are power-hungry, others are afraid of change. The fear of the unknown runs deep." Ethan stepped closer, his expression serious. "We knew it wouldn't be simple, but we have to push forward. If we don't act now, we risk losing everything." Alaria took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weight of her thoughts. "I know. I just wish I could convince everyone that peace is the way forward. But it's not just the council I have to worry about now. There are whispers of rebellion, and some are calling for war against humanity. We have to be ready for whatever comes." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice calm and reassuring. "We will be. We have the resources, the support, and the will to protect this alliance. And we have each other. Together, we can face anything." Alaria looked at him, her eyes softening slightly. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what I would do without you." Just then, the door to the chamber opened, and one of Alaria's most trusted advisors, Raza, entered. He was a tall, imposing figure, with a stern face that rarely betrayed his emotions. "Your Highness," Raza began, his voice low and serious. "There's news from the southern borders. The rebel factions are growing stronger. They've begun rallying support among the people, and there are rumors of attacks on human settlements. We need to act quickly before things escalate. Alaria's heart sank. She had known that this day would come, but hearing it spoken aloud made the threat all the more real. "How bad is it?" she asked, her voice steady but filled with concern. Raza looked at her, his expression grim. "It's not good. The rebels have seized several small towns, and there have been reports of skirmishes near the human supply routes. If we don't take action now, we risk a full-scale war." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We can't let that happen. We need to strike before they have a chance to gather more strength." Alaria nodded, her mind racing. "I agree. We cannot let the rebels tear apart everything we've worked for. But we need to be strategic. A direct assault might only fuel their cause. We need to find a way to neutralize their leaders without causing widespread destruction." Raza stepped forward. "I have a plan, Your Highness. It won't be easy, but it may give us the upper hand. We can infiltrate their stronghold and take out their leadership, destabilizing the rebellion before it can spread further." Alaria considered this for a moment. It was a risky plan, but it might be their only option. "How long will it take to prepare?" "Not long," Raza replied. "We have a small group of elite soldiers ready to move. If we act quickly, we can strike within the next 24 hours. Alaria turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with a quiet resolve. "What do you think? Should we move forward with this plan?" Ethan met her gaze, his expression thoughtful. "It's a risky move, but it might be our best chance. If we can take out the leadership of the rebellion, the rest of their forces will scatter. But we have to move quickly and decisively." Alaria nodded. "Then we'll do it. But we must be prepared for the consequences. This is not just a battle for power. It's a fight for the future of Xylan and the Alliance." Raza turned and began to leave the room, but Alaria stopped him. "Raza, make sure our forces are ready. I want no mistakes." He nodded. "Of course, Your Highness." As the doors closed behind him, Alaria turned to Ethan, her expression hardening. "This is it. There's no turning back now." Ethan nodded. "We'll get through this, Alaria. We have to." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of preparations. The Xylan military mobilized quickly, and Ethan was in constant contact with human forces stationed on the planet. The tension in the palace was palpable, but Alaria remained calm, focusing on the mission ahead. As night fell, the time to strike arrived. Alaria and Ethan stood together in the war room, their eyes fixed on the holographic map of the southern regions. Rebel forces were gathered in a fortified location. Their leader, a former general named Varnak, was believed to be coordinating the attacks. "We'll hit them hard and fast," Ethan said, his voice low. "Once we take out their leadership, the rest of their forces will fall apart." Alaria nodded, her eyes steely with determination. "Let's do this." The battle that followed was fierce but swift. Xylan and human forces worked together seamlessly, moving in precise formations to overwhelm the rebel stronghold. Alaria fought. Alongside her soldiers, her presence on the battlefield commanding respect and courage from those around her. By dawn, the rebel stronghold was in ruins, and Varnak was captured. The remaining rebel forces scattered, their resolve shattered. As the sun rose over the battlefield, Alaria stood on a hill overlooking the site of the conflict. The dust was settling and the sounds of war had quieted. It was over, for now. Ethan joined her, standing quietly at her side. "You did it," he said softly. Alaria didn't answer immediately. She simply watched the rising sun, her thoughts distant. "We did it," she corrected him, "but this war is far from over." Ethan nodded. "I know, but we've taken the first step." The rebellion had been crushed, but the war was far from over. Alaria stood at the balcony of her palace, looking out over the capital of Xylan. The city, once filled with tension, was now calm, at least on the surface. The streets were filled, with people going about their daily lives, but Alaria knew the truth. The peace they had fought for was fragile, and their enemies would not give up so easily. Beside her, Ethan stood in silence. He had been her partner in every step of the struggle, and he understood the weight of the moment. Their alliance had been hard-earned, and they both knew that this victory, while significant, was only one piece of the puzzle. "Do you think this is the end?" Ilaria asked, her voice quiet but filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Ethan looked at her, his gaze steady. "I think it's the beginning. We've taken a huge step, but we still have a long way to go. The people of Xylan need to see that the alliance with humanity is the key to their future." Ilaria turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. "The rebels are gone, but there are still those who oppose this peace. There are factions within my government who will always see humanity as a threat, and there are those who fear change. It will take time to heal the wounds that have been caused by years of distrust." Ethan nodded. "I understand. But the fact that we've come this far means we can keep going. The people need to see their leaders standing together, united. Once they see that the alliance benefits them, they will begin to believe in it." Ilaria smiled faintly. "I hope you're right. But it's not just about the people. It's about convincing my own court, my own family, that this is the right path." Ethan looked at her with understanding. "It's not easy to change centuries of tradition. But you're not alone in this. You have me, and you have the support of your people who believe in you." Ilaria's gaze softened. "Thank you, Ethan. I couldn't have done this without you." Before Ethan could respond, the door to the balcony opened and one of Ilaria's advisors entered. Raza, the same advisor who had helped plan the strike against the rebels, stepped forward. "Your Highness," Raza began, his tone formal but respectful. "There's been word from the northern borders. The human settlement there has reported an increase in activity from the remnants of the rebellion. It seems some of them are regrouping in the mountains." Ilaria's expression hardened. "How many are we talking about?" "Not many, but enough to cause concern," Raza replied. "They've been raiding small outposts and trying to stir up trouble. We need to act before they get any stronger." Ilaria exchanged a glance with Ethan. "We can't let this drag on. We'll have to act quickly, but we can't risk another all-out war. We need to deal with them decisively." Ethan nodded in agreement. "We'll go in with a small force, strike fast, and leave before they can regroup. We'll make it clear that Xylan and humanity are united against them." Raza looked between them, his expression one of approval. "I will prepare our forces, Your Highness." As Raza left the room, Ilaria turned back to Ethan, her eyes focused. "We can't afford any more delays. If the remnants of the rebellion are left unchecked, they'll spread distrust among the people. We need to send a message." Ethan's voice was firm. "We'll handle it. But this time we do it smart. We don't need another full-scale battle. We need to show them that this alliance isn't something they can easily break." Ilaria nodded. "I trust you, Ethan. Let's move quickly." The plan was simple. A small elite force, made up of both Xylan soldiers and human fighters, would infiltrate the rebel stronghold in the mountains. The goal was to neutralize the remaining rebel leaders and dismantle their operations without causing unnecessary casualties. It was a delicate mission, but time was running out. Ilaria and Ethan rode together to the base camp where the forces were being assembled. The air was crisp, and the stars above them sparkled in the clear night sky. It felt like a different world here, more rugged and untamed than the palace, but equally full of promise. As they arrived at the camp, they were greeted by the commanding officers who briefed them on the situation. The rebel group had established a fortified position in a mountain pass, using the rough terrain to their advantage. The Xylan and human forces would need to use stealth and precision to succeed. Ethan turned to Ilaria, his eyes steady. "You know we're not just fighting rebels anymore. We're fighting for the future of our people. If we succeed here, we'll send a message that peace is the only way forward." Ilaria looked out at the forces assembling around them. "I know. And we will succeed. But I can't help but wonder what will happen when the fighting is over. Will the people truly accept this peace? Or will we always be looking over our shoulders, wondering when the next rebellion will begin? Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, offering her a reassuring smile. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, we do what needs to be done. We protect the future. Ilaria gave him a nod of thanks, feeling the weight of the moment. The battle ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. She had come too far to turn back now. The mission was a success. The rebel stronghold in the mountains was quickly neutralized, and the remaining leaders were captured or scattered. Ilaria and Ethan's forces had worked together seamlessly, and the speed and efficiency of their operation sent a clear message to any who might still question the power of the new alliance. But the victory didn't bring the peace Ilaria had hoped for. The people of Xylan, though relieved by the end of the rebellion, still carried the scars of years of war and distrust. There were whispers in the streets, debates in the council halls, and uncertainty in the hearts of many. Back in the palace, Ilaria sat alone in her chamber, staring at the empty space before her. Ethan had gone to speak with the military leaders, and she had a moment to herself. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. She had always known that peace would be a long and difficult journey, but she hadn't expected it to be so lonely. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see Ethan standing in the doorway, his expression filled with concern. "You've been quiet," he said gently. "Is everything all right?" Ilaria smiled faintly. "I'm just thinking about the future, about what's next." Ethan stepped inside and sat beside her. "We'll get through it together, one step at a time." She looked at him, her heart lightened by his presence. "Thank you, Ethan, for everything." He smiled, his voice warm. "No need to thank me. I'm here to stay, Ilaria. We're in this together." For the first time in a long while, Ilaria allowed herself to relax. The future was uncertain, but with Ethan by her side, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would build a future of peace, one step at a time,